Hello everyone and welcome to another Bitcoin crypto analysis video. Today we'll talk about DNN, Decentralized News Network, what it is, what's their objective with their idea, and talk about some pros and cons, and then you'll have a better idea if you should invest or not. So let's jump straight into it. So first of all, there's a quick disclaimer. This is not financial advice. I am not registered to provide financial advice. This video reflects only my personal opinion. You should always do your own due diligence before investing. You should only invest what you're willing to lose. So having that said, DNN, Decentralized News Network, news by the people for the people. So what is DNN? They have this big idea that they're trying to sell, and it's also in their white paper, is that nowadays there are 6 media conglomerates that control 90% of American news coverage. And that's not just television, that's radio, newspaper, and television. If you think about that, there's 6 big conglomerates, companies, if you will, that control most of the American news. So that's why today in the news, you also have President Trump talking about fake news and all that. The news are just very prone to someone being against your idea, so they'll try to discredit you. So this just makes all of the media outlets less trustworthy. Because if you know only 6 companies, conglomerates are controlling everything, how do you know the one you watch is the correct one or is trying to give you the best facts, and why not the one you don't like? So that's why it's talked about so much today in the news, is the fake news and all those things, because no one knows what to trust, and it's too easy to manipulate facts and write fake articles. So another quote from their white paper is that they're a news platform that combines news creation with decentralized networks as a means to delivering factual content curated by a community of readers, writers, and reviewers. So what they're trying to do is just not creating a news company that they control, but rather creating the platform and the community controls as a whole. So whatever the community decides as a whole, that's what's going to be out there as a news. Another quote, the centralized news network removes the need for advertisers because the platform will not source revenue from ads. Which is, this really caught my attention because nowadays it's a big thing. Media outlets in general, they're very heavily supported by advertisers. So if you're the news channel that only talks about useless things or problems that are not as big and trying to make a big deal out of problems that should not necessarily be in the news, but your advertisers like that because you get a lot of ratings, a lot of people are watching you, then you keep doing that. With DNN, you won't have that because there will be no advertisers. So advertisers will have no influence whatsoever in what the news are going to be. And they break down their platform into 4 categories of who you can be. You can be a writer, a reviewer, a reader, or a publisher. So we'll describe a little bit more how it works. So let's say you're a writer. You're the person who writes an article, a news article. You write your article, and then they talk about with great detail in their white paper, which is great. I love that their white paper is very detailed about how their processes work. It's a great first step for a company that's trying to do what they're trying to do. They have this great ambition. So you will write an article, and then what will happen? You'll have reviewers. You don't know who these reviewers are, but if you are a reviewer, you can bid using DNN tokens. So here you can see different values, 50, 45. So you can bid to review an article, but you don't know what article, you just bid. So pretty much you're paying to review an article, and later you can receive that money back in a little bit more. So what happens is you bid 50 DNN. The platform works this way. They will select the highest 7 bidders for that news article and assign them to review that article. Obviously, that's a simplified view, because on a day-to-day basis, you'll have hundreds of news articles, and then you won't just have one news article to be reviewed. You'll have thousands, so people will be bidding all the time. But this is essentially how the first steps work. And then if you'll need 5 out of those 7 people to agree on a consensus. They have to agree if they accept your news article, if your news article follows the DNN guidelines, or if it doesn't. If the score is 4-3 in favor or against your article, they will assign another 7 reviewers to your article. If it's 5-2, whatever, if it's rejected, it returns to you with suggestions from the reviewers. If it's accepted, then it moves on the process to be published. And then everyone gets a small reward if it gets published or not. And then readers, they can also suggest ideas for writers. So now what they're trying to do is that they want the readers to get involved in everything, to say, okay, so we want to know about this problem that hasn't really been talked in the news, but we want you to talk about it. And the DNN platform gives an incentive to writers, because if the writers choose to write suggested posts by readers, then the readers get a little bit a share, a little bit of reward, and so do all the writers that choose to write suggested posts. So this is a good way to just create a sense of community in the platform using rewards for reviewers, writers, and readers. All right, so a little bit of token information. The hard cap will be 30,000 Ethereum, token symbol DNN. Distribution is going to be 40% token sale, 20% private pre-sale, so a total of 60% going to the public initially to be bought in the pre-sale and sale phases. Then 14% to advisors, 11% stays, they keep with them, 10% founders, 4% writer accounts, and 1% bounty. And then the token price is going to be around 0.0003533 Ethereum per DNN token. Okay, let's move on to the pros of DNN. The first one is decentralized news, no apparent or no clear bias. So their greatest ambition is to create this news platform that people can read and be sure that whoever reviewed it and the way it was published, it makes sure that the data in the article is factual and it doesn't have a bias. So it's not trying to portray something as it is not, or trying to take your attention away from something or deviate your attention from the problem to something else based on what the reviewers say. So ideally, in a perfect world, this is what they want. And then everyone would trust this news platform because everyone knows it's decentralized. And then, it's as good as it gets when it comes to news. So you have zero bias in a way. Second point, everyone gets paid in the process, or has the potential to get paid. So if readers suggest a certain topic to be written by a writer and it gets picked up by the writer, then they get a little bit of DNN tokens. And if the writer chooses to write a suggested topic, they also get a little bit. And the writers just get DNN tokens just from writing articles, as kind of is nowadays if you work for a news company. And then reviewers get paid for reviewing. So they initially have to pay a price to review the article, but later they get paid back. The way they get their DNN tokens back is that if they vote in accordance with what the majority of other viewers said, so for example, you're a reviewer and you vote that a certain article has to be published, it's good, it's in accordance with all the guidelines, then you will, everyone who voted with you, so got the majority, let's say the vote score was 5-2, so 5 votes saying that you want the article to be published, everyone gets a reward. If you voted for the article not to be reviewed or not to be published, then you will not get your money, your DNN tokens back. This can create certain problems, but we'll get into that later. Third point, readers are more involved with writers, again, because now readers can give suggestions to writers. If they suggest, for example, to write about the war in Afghanistan or some other topic, then the writer picks that up, and if it gets published, then the writers get a little bit of money and the readers get a little bit of money, all readers who suggested that topic. Fourth point is that DNN has a very large following on Telegram. Over 84,000 people right now are on their Telegram group, and this can show different things, but it shows that the community wants news like this. A lot of people obviously are just getting into it just to speculate, but also a lot of people believe in the project. It is something needed nowadays. It's trying to get rid of a problem nowadays, and this number just shows how much people want something like this to work. And lastly, team is very ambitious and has vast experience with software and some blockchain experience, which is good because, again, they're trying to develop a blockchain platform, decentralized news media, and they need all that experience to build it up. Okay, so moving on to the cons. The first one is that the reviewer's bidding process, that picture I had earlier. When I was reading the white paper and looking at the picture, one big thing that came into my mind is that what if you have reviewers, we can even say wealthy people, and it ties to the second point here. If you have, let's say Bill Gates, he only wants certain articles to go out. He can bid a lot of money, then he'll get picked. And in this way, he can vote in a certain way. But let's say then you have a group of wealthy people that want to do that. They get together and they say, okay, I don't like what everyone's talking about Trump, so let's jump in, be reviewers, and we bid as much as we can. Then we review, and everything we like gets processed. Everything we don't like doesn't get processed. So I think this is a weak point. They can obviously fix that, and it's hard to fix. It's not something easy to do. They're trying to do an extremely ambitious project that's trying to get rid of a huge problem nowadays with the creation of internet and dissemination of internet. Everyone knows what the fake news industry is doing, and everyone's just retweeting things and posting things on Facebook that no one really reads or checks to see if those numbers are correct or where the source is from. Again, if you have wealthy people being the reviewers, then those people can control, obviously not 100%, but they can have some sort of control over the news, just like we have nowadays. So that's just, I think, a major con of this industry. And I hope DNN gets or tries to fix this problem. Third point is super reviewers. If you go through the white paper, they will have these super reviewers. What it means is that you have regular reviewers, and every month they'll elect a few super reviewers, who are people who have a large ratio of news they voted to get accepted against of the number of news they voted and didn't get accepted, meaning that the number of articles they voted for, and they voted for the correct result. So if you vote for an article not to be published and everyone else does the same, that's good for you. You get one extra unit on this score. But if you vote for this article not to be published and everyone else votes for it to be published, you get 1 unit increase in the score against you, let's say. So this ratio will tell the platform who are the best reviewers, and these best reviewers will get to be super reviewers. What they do, they will have their votes have a larger weight on or a larger influence on votes. So for example, if there are 7 reviewers and one of them is a super reviewer, his vote is worth, I believe, 50%, and the other 6 reviewers' votes together are worth 50%. There's on the white paper, there's everything out in a second I'll show you, but again, this could be worrying because if you have a group of wealthy people or one wealthy reviewer and he's just bidding on big or just bidding a lot of tokens to review articles, and in the beginning he might vote correctly or try to follow the rules, but if he becomes a super reviewer, then you're just giving more power to someone that shouldn't really have power. And again, this is a problem that's difficult to get rid of in the news media industry. 4th point, there are lots of competitors in this industry right now trying to do similar things as DNN. One thing that DNN is trying to do different from others, that they're trying to get readers involved, and so readers can earn a little bit, and by this way trying to differentiate their product from other products. But again, there are lots of competitors, and we'll just have to see who will win the race. Also, there's a lack of team members and advisors with experience in traditional media. There's one advisor, I think, that had a startup and was involved with the CEO of The Guardian and someone from the New York Times, but there's no one that came straight from news media and is advising them. Again, they can get new advisors, team members for that part once maybe the platform is launched. But it's always good to have someone that has hands-on experience in the market to come and help. So now I want to show you quickly their website here, DNN. Here's the token sale. Right now they don't have a date for the token sale, but you can get whitelisted and register to. So right now you can get whitelisted and register for the token sale. And then let's move on to the white paper. So again, the white paper is great. There are 55 pages, as you can see. And one thing I really liked is that they also try to talk a little bit about all the cons. I listed some cons here. They talk about other cons that their project have and how maybe in the future they can try to fix that. And one of them here, as you can see, is super reviewers, like I said. And what they say is that they want the super reviewer, they need someone above reviewers. They need someone that they can trust more. But right now, the big question is how to choose someone they trust more. Because let's say I personally choose someone to be a super reviewer, but then I have my biases. How do I choose someone that doesn't have a bias? And I don't know what metric will I use? So this is one of the questions they ask here. Then they're talking about inflation, redemption mechanism, because they're saying you get points for if you're right, and then for reviewers, and once you get those points, you can redeem those for DNN tokens. And then there are some technicalities here that might create a problem. One big one also is time period for participation, because they're saying they'll give reviewers time to vote, so they have a specific amount of time to vote, but they still don't know exactly how much time, because let's say an airplane crashes and someone writes a news article. Do you give it a day for someone to vote, or do you give someone 2 hours, but then maybe that person will not have as much time to check facts and all that? So because news are very fast paced nowadays with the internet, deciding on this time period, it's very critical for the project. So this will be interesting to see how they tackle this problem. Then DNN fee. Then here, lastly, they talk about people who cite sources, but it ends up that those sources were not correct, and that they're saying that then you can fix articles and all that, and then you can flag them as suspicious, a bunch of different things. But again, it's a really, if you're thinking about investing in this project, I really recommend reading their white paper. It's not technical, it has a lot of detail of how everything all works, but I think it is very important to read because it's so detail oriented. It gives you, sometimes I would be reading something, I would be reading one of the processes they have, and questions will come to my head of, okay, so but how do you do this? And then right after they would answer that question, or even in this part of the super reviewers, actually, they answered a little bit of my questions. So they try to address everything, the pros and the cons. And then I want to show you, they have a table with all their biggest competitors. And it's good that they recognize they have competitors. A lot of companies, they write white papers, and it seems like they don't have competitors, or they try not to mention them. But I think for a company that's trying to do what DNN is trying to do, it is good to recognize what other companies are doing and try to show people what the different things are. So here's just listing all of them and some of the difference or how it works out, if they're decentralized or not. But as you can see, there are a lot of companies. From here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And out of those 7, 6 are decentralized. As you can see here, this is the decentralized. So it says yes. Again, this is a very ambitious project. They have a great idea. Now we just have to see if they will deliver and if it actually works out. Let me know in the comments if you like this video, if you're going to invest in DNN, if you have already invested in some way, if you're thinking about it. Let me also know if you didn't like the video or what else I didn't cover that I should have covered. And I'll see you guys in the next one.